This episode is brought to you by Accenture. When your advertising operations fall out of sync, everything else follows. Spotify and Accenture are working together to reinvent the rhythm of ad sales, using automation, analytics, and smarter workflows to simplify campaign delivery and access better data across the business. The result? Less time spent on operations, more time connecting brands with the moments and fandoms that matter most. Learn more at accenture.com/Spotify.
I don't wanna wait for our lives to be over. I want to know right now, what will it be? I don't wanna wait.
Hi there. Welcome to The Best Worst, a celebration of the best and the worst of the television we love.
Hi, I'm Meg Bashwinner.
And I'm Joseph Fink.
And we love TV, so we created the show to explore what we all love about popular TV shows by watching both the IMDb viewer best rated and worst rated episodes of a quintessential series.
Because there's a lot of stuff that that float around in the cultural ether, and we're aware of it, but we don't really know what it's actually like. And this is a show in which we find out, what are these shows actually like? Has anyone ever watched Dawson's Creek, for instance? Does anyone know what the show is like?
We have a set of rules here. It's not just willy-nilly. We're not just watching any old TV show.
Although we are constantly debating on whether to abandon some of these rules.
Yeah, what about BBC rules, guys? Because they make like 4 episodes of television and call that a series.
Should we do Faulty Towers, even though they only ever made 3 episodes or whatever?
Yeah. Or, Peep Show. Peep Show's close.
Yeah, I definitely think we are going to eventually do some close ones. Peep Show, I think we should...
Call the Midwife.
Call the Midwife is over 100.
Yeah.
And we should absolutely do Call the Midwife. I want to do Quantum Leap. Quantum Leap has 97. I also think eventually we should do Letterkenny, which is also at like 97.
Yeah.
Listen, we made these rules. We're going to break these rules. I don't care. What are you going to do about it? We're also breaking one of our rules today, which is we generally exclude premieres or finales because those tend to have inflated ratings because they're the ones where the people finally kiss or whatever. And we're looking to watch the television show at its absolute best, not at its most important or cliffhangery. But we'll get into it. We had to break that rule for this one, or else this podcast episode you're listening to would be way worse. So just for your sake, we had to break that rule.
Yes. Today we're doing Dawson's Creek. So Dawson's Creek ran for 6 seasons from the years 1998 to 2003 with 128 episodes.
Meg, you watched Dawson's Creek, correct?
I watched Dawson's Creek. This was a show made for Meg. Meg was 12 years old when Dawson's Creek came out, and it was made for her. It was a program on the WB I was 12 years old. It was like, it's when you start to like have those like hard crushes, right? And like you have the hormones are kicked on and there's lots of yearning and feeling and no one understands you. And they've made a television program for you where these older kids are figuring that out, but they're all, brilliant and articulate and the hilarious, and the writing is quippy and the acting is intense. And there's a soundtrack that is like heartbreaking and driving so much that you have to go to the FYE store in the mall and get the soundtrack. And they have different versions of the soundtrack that releases so that you get like different little CD inserts for them. So
did you do any CD singles of Dawson's Creek songs?
I didn't have any singles, but I did have the soundtrack of the first season. I had the Joey one because that was all that was left at the store. Joey was not a fave character of mine at the time.
Oh wait, so they were character themed.
They were the songs weren't different, but the inserts in the CD were different. So
which one was your favorite?
My favorite character on the show? I was more of a Jen girl.
Jen is Michelle Williams?
Michelle Williams.
Okay.
I was more of a Jen girl. I did like Joey. I came around on Joey. Really, we can talk about this as we get to it, but this is really Joey's Creek. This is definitely, she's the star of the show.
Yeah, by season 6, which we covered kind of extensively in this watch, she very much is the main character. Dawson feels like a side character.
She's the only one who's in every episode of the show. So, okay. So Joey's Creek. So I will say this, though. So what happened was in the year 2001 is when I entered high school and was in the marching band. I was in the color guard. So that had rehearsals on Tuesday nights. So I fell off all of my WB shows starting in 2001. So I never finished watching Dawson's Creek when it was on and airing. I loved the show. But again, I think once you take a show that is about high school kids and then you take them out of high school, there definitely is a bridge there that not everyone makes it across.
Yeah, I mean, some do. I'd say Buffy managed it. There was a little bit of rough transition, but there's some great Buffy after they...
I didn't make it across that bridge, but that, again, was also due to the marching band situation.
Yeah.
So this was 19. What about you, Joseph? Do you have any Creek?
I was aware of it. I would say I had no feelings either way about it. Like, it was just, I'm aware that this is a popular thing. I knew who Katie Holmes was, and I actually forgot that she came from Dawson's Creek. But watching it now, I'm like, oh, that's right, Katie Holmes was in this.
Yeah.
Forgot that. I was aware of Joshua Jackson because of the TV show Fringe. And so when we started watching this, I was like, why do I know this guy? And the answer is because he starred in Fringe.
Well, he came from the Mighty Ducks and has always been such a heartthrob. I'm a pacey girl myself.
I feel like the show was a pacey girl. Like, the show
it really is a pacey Joey sort of, but that was the sort of the thing with the show. They said when they set out to make the show, it had the potential to be a show like go so many different ways, and what emerged from it really is a Joey Pacey vehicle, and that's great.
I would say to this day, I am confused why it's called Dawson's Creek and what Dawson's Creek is.
Well, that's how it started out, though, right? So, like, you're going to start with the premise of a show, and then as it starts to gel and figure out, and you start to tell different stories along it, and you find out what has more chemistry, right? Like, we were saying this when we were watching it, that, like, kind of the chemistry, there's decent chemistry between Joey and Dawson in the first season, but it's, like, really not all the way there. Mostly it's Katie Holmes acting the shit out of it, acting the shit out of the yearning. But the real chemistry is between her and Joshua Jackson, who were apparently, you said, a real life couple.
Yeah, for the first 2 years, because they were both teenagers at the time, and so they both dated in real life for the first 2 seasons. Katie Holmes has said that he was her first real love.
And you can see that translates on film. And so, like, when you are actually able to capture something real-ish like that, your writers and directors are going to want to run in that direction because there is some magic there. I also watched the show on syndication. My senior year of high school, we could like go out for lunch, and we'd go out. Me and my friend Nicole, we had lunch together. We would go out for lunch once a week on Fridays, but every other day we'd just go back to my house and eat lunch there and watch Dawson's Creek. So I watched it in syndication at 11 a.m. every weekday morning on my TV kitchen.
I just have
kitchen
a dog.
TV.
I just have a dog at my feet who is just eating a leaf. It's what this dog is doing. Dawson's Creek is one of the ones that I think immediately jumped to my head when we started this show, because it, like Friends, was another one where it's like these shows that had a big cultural imprint, but that I just had never seen a single minute of. And so part of what drove my desire to do this show was just a curiosity of like these shows that I am aware of but just don't know anything about. It would be cool to do something where I really got a sense of what their deal was. And I do feel like I got a good sense of what Dawson's Creek's deal was. A lot of possessives happening.
Dawson's Creeks. It's actually Dawson Creeks.
Yeah. It's actually Property's brother.
Yeah.
Let's get to the worst episode.
Okay. And, ooh, buddy.
This is... Yeah, right after you watch it, you're like, that is the worst episode we have seen for the show so far. And I think you're right. I do think the lost tattoo scene is the single worst scene we've watched for this show. But that was the worst entire episode.
This is the worst episode of television I've seen in a very long time. And I was a Dawson's Creek fan. I didn't watch this season when it was on, again, because of marching band, which is like the most high school reason to not continue watching Dawson's Creek. But it was a tough watch. It was a tough watch. The worst is season 6, episode 19, Lovelines, which is a sort of crossover episode with the...
Yeah, I feel like maybe Loveline was starting its MTV show at the time, like they were getting into TV. And so maybe this was to promote that. Yes.
So the general plot of it is that Loveline is coming to do a like live event at the college to benefit the helpline that Jen works at. And so Adam Carolla and Dr. Drew are there, and they're hosting a live panel. But there's like the characters, things they're having relationship issues that are sort of cackling in the background that come to a head when they kind of sort of get forced into talking to Dr. Drew about them. So Michelle Williams breaks up with her boyfriend sort of just like coldly and out of nowhere because she's like freaked out because her grandma has cancer and doesn't want to like have a boyfriend right now.
Also because they needed to give her a problem for this episode.
They needed to give her a problem for this episode and have just like the most trite resolution to every single one of these problems. Okay. And then Joey's boyfriend comes back, her ex-boyfriend. He's sort of like an on again, off again situation. He's back, but she doesn't want to have sex with him. And so she ends up on stage with him talking about that. And then Jack's boyfriend gets hit on by some other dude, but then Jack's boyfriend's like, it's cool, I have a boyfriend. And then Jack is waiting for his boyfriend to come watch the Loveline show with him. And the dude that was hitting on his boyfriend comes up to him and is like, hey, is anyone sitting there? And Jack's like, I don't know where my boyfriend is. I was supposed to save him a seat, but now he's not here. Have a seat. And so Jack and the hitting on boyfriend dude like are just chatting. And then Jack's boyfriend comes and sees it and is like, oh my God, you are flirting with this guy in front of me and you didn't save me a seat. And he's like very crushed about it. And they get into a fight about that.
I would say that was the most interesting one in that it is an actual like, you know, it's a double standard thing happening where everyone was cool when the guy was hitting on Jack's boyfriend. Jack's boyfriend was cool with it. Jack was cool with it. But then when the situation was reversed, Jack's boyfriend lost his mind about it.
Yeah.
So that at least was like a real problem.
And Busy Phillips' character is fresh back from rehab and apparently has the hots for Dr. Drew. So basically
in like
just
the most wedged in, like it's not believable at all.
she spends the whole episode like a cat in heat presenting for Dr. Drew. And it's difficult to watch. This whole episode is difficult to watch. And
so much of it is Adam Carolla too. And that's
who is
tough.
just like, oof.
Well, let's get into this. Were you a Loveline listener?
Yes.
I was too. Like, I mean, I think that's part of what made this hard is when I was like in 8th grade, you know, when I was like 12 to 14, I had my boombox had a broken antenna. So the only way I could get it to work was to make my body the antenna. And so I would lie on my back on the floor holding onto the antenna so I could listen to Loveline. And that was like, I think for a lot of people our age, our sex education, like our initial one was Adam Carolla and Dr. Drew. And knowing what absolute pieces of shit both of them turned out to be, like both of them are just far right, science denying pieces of shit. It's like it's a little bit embarrassing. It's embarrassing that I ever voluntarily listened to these fucking assholes. And I think that's part of what makes this episode hard to watch.
Yeah. I will say the history of Loveline on MTV was from 1996 to 2000. So the Loveline TV show had ended at this point.
Interesting. So this was just, I really was like, why did this happen?
Well, the Adam Carolla show started,
This was Man Show era, right?
Yeah, there's the Adam Carolla show. There's the Man Show.
Remember when Jimmy Kimmel was the Man Show guy?
Yeah. Anyway, so it's difficult. It is difficult to listen to Adam Carolla speak at all.
He has for a guy who made his career on radio and podcasts, he has one of the worst voices to ever listen to.
And just absolutely, like, the scripting is bad for him. Like, they do a decent job putting it in his voice, but it's so poorly performed, and the things he says are just so horrible and rude. But at the time, taken as like the just absolute, this is the best advice you could receive. This is like, ooh.
Yeah, I mean, even leaving aside his like COVID denying and him being a right-wing piece of shit, like now looking at how Dr. Drew talks to people, it just sucks. He's just constantly like, how's your relationship with your father? Were you molested? He just, every woman that he talks to, that's immediately what he starts with. And I remember that on Loveline, that like, and then if the person they were talking to is like, my relationship with my dad was fine. No, I was never molested. They would start arguing with her and be like, yes, you were. We know, we just know these things and you're wrong about that. Just real, God, I hate
very
those guys.
Very heavy-handed, very forced. Just, yeah, a difficult watch.
Yeah, also no James Van Der Beek or Joshua Jackson are in this episode. Joshua Jackson directed this episode, the only thing he's ever directed, but neither he nor James Van Der Beek's characters are in this episode because it is just, it's just those specific people we mentioned. For like 90% of the episode is them in a room talking to Dr. Drew and Adam Carolla, while Joshua Jackson directs this so badly. There's just, you can see he never directed anything before, and it's understandable why he never directed anything since, because there's just like, there's long shots of the crowd filing in, and then at the end of the show, a long shot of the crowd filing out. There's all sorts of like trying too hard, film school editing stuff happening during the montage.
It was very like film school senior year situation, which like I'm not mad at, given that like Joshua Jackson was like very young when he started working on this project. The commitment to Dawson's Creek, like they're doing really long seasons, they're shooting 9 months out of the year, like this is kind of your whole thing, and this is a point where you're trying to learn and develop artistically. The fact that he was either they put it in his contract that he got to direct an episode for the last season, or was someone thought like, hey, why don't we give you this opportunity? Either or. I don't know what happened there, but like I think that's a really cool thing, and I think that like it's a really good stewardship in this industry to nurture young artists this way. And so I'm the direction of this episode is not the problem with this episode. Had the script been good, had any of the narrative process been thought through at all, had any of these conceits actually worked and not been cringy, the direction would have been fine, absolutely serviceable and fine. Because the episode is so bad, you're looking at shit and being like, oh fuck, how like what a film school 101 shit this episode is.
Well, even beyond that, I honestly don't know whether this was an artistic choice or an editing mistake that was left in, but there's a point where Dr. Drew is talking and then the screen just does that like digital swirl thing, and then it's not a cut to anything, it just swirls back and it's still him talking, and there's just like briefly the screen swirls, and I genuinely don't know if that was just they put a transition there in the thing and then forgot to take it out because they didn't actually end up cutting to something. Really incompetent, at least on the technical side. The acting is whatever, but on the technical side, the directing in this episode is very incompetent.
The acting is tough in this episode, but it is due to the writing. These actors are not given clear wants. These actors are not given like anything to really play with, because none of what they're doing actually makes sense. So it's difficult for them to justify what they're doing. Like Joey's boyfriend is like, you won't have sex with me. You won't have sex with me. Let me bring you. And she's like, I don't really want to talk about it. And he's like, great. Let me bring you on stage in front of an entire audience of people to talk about it.
Force you on stage. Which Dr. Drew and Adam Carolla also they're like, you have to come up here. Come up here now.
Yeah. So like, and then with the stuff with Jen and her boyfriend, like she's like, I'm really nervous about the show. I'm going through a lot right now. Like, I don't want to talk about this right now. And he like interrupts her in the middle of the show. Like, if you had any tiny bit of respect for her, you'd be like, okay, why don't we talk about this tomorrow after things have settled, as opposed to like, we need to talk about it right now and you're in the middle of your big work day. Like,
also, I'd be like, yeah, that's why I broke up with you, dude.
Yeah.
You just don't have good boundaries here.
And then, yeah, Busy Phillips, her only intention is that she wants to fuck Dr. Drew for some reason.
Drew.
Which, like, so I'm so sorry that they made you do that.
Yeah, Busy, if you're listening, thank you for listening to our show. First off, we're very honored.
Huge fan.
Hollywood and podcast royalty, I feel like. Yeah. And I'm sorry they made you do that.
I'm sorry they made you do that. The acting was not, you did your absolute best with what you were given, and what you were given was not enough for it to be good.
Getting to like the bottom of why this is the worst, it goes back to the like, TV is for hanging out with your TV friends. And anytime we don't get to hang out with our TV friends, that's going to be the worst episode. And Dawson's Creek is a show about staring at heartthrobs. It's a show that was aimed at girls, and it was aimed at this, it was aimed at having hot guys that were interested in the kind of the stand-in characters. And none of those hot guys are in this, other than the late series hot guys that no one has any attachment to because they were cast in season 6 or whatever. But like, you don't have Dawson, you don't have Pacey. And what you have instead are maybe the least hot men in existence, Dr. Drew and Adam Carolla, just not necessarily physically, but just from the core of their beings, just deeply unhot men. And that's mostly what we're looking at. So I think not having our TV friends and then having to just stare at Dr. Drew and Adam Carolla, it's pretty clear why this is the worst. Well, yeah, most of my notes on this one are just, I have Joshua Jackson having too much fun. Nothing in this episode works. I do have so many people I recognize because, again, this is the first one we watched. I didn't know who was in Dawson's Creek. And so there was like, I didn't remember where I knew these people from, but when I saw Michelle Williams, I'm like, I know her. And then when I saw Joshua Jackson, I was like, hey, I know him. There was a lot of being like, this person looks really familiar. I recognized Busy Phillips, and then I had forgotten until that. I was like, oh, that's right. She was on Dawson's Creek. Do we want to get into... I don't think there's any controversy.
There's some controversy in that when it aired, there was a big moral panic around it. One of the main sponsors, one of the producers of the show, Procter & Gamble, pulled out after they shot this was a mid-season replacement. They shot the 13 episodes all at once. I think they shot it all at once. And then they came on mid-season, and they did a lot of like really interesting marketing for this, marketing that had not been done before. Like it was on screens at Blockbuster Video. Yeah, they were kind of splattering it around the internet, like the new internet. Like there was also like a website you could go to after the show came out where it was like Dawson's blog. So like it was one of the first shows to like.
And what a great job for an intern getting to write that.
Like actually pulling that sort of stuff into it. So there was a pushback to it because it was, again, it's for girls, but they were like, they're talking about sex too much. And they're like, this is not the way that anyone actually acts. And they're scantily clad and they're articulate and they speak like adults. And so like there was that sort of moral panic surrounding it. And then, of course, there was all the dunking on it because anything that's made for a 12-year-old girl is like totally rife for the dunking. But that was kind of like the only like true controversy there was like, when this came out, there was a ton of moral panic and Procter & Gamble pulled their sponsorship. But it was an incredibly popular show. Oh, they also, for the marketing, they put billboards and trailers in theaters before the screenings of Titanic. And this was, the WB was the first TV network to run trailers in movie theaters. Now we like see commercials for everything in a movie theater. But before that, movie trailers were just trailers for movies.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but there was a lot of buzz. It was like risque. Yeah. And these people were everywhere, like billboards. There was so much promotional tie-in. It was like kind of like the Wicked of its day. So
many people are saying,
yeah, they had a lot of, it was a cross-platform fan engagement. There was a series had the official website, which was Dawson's Desktop. And you could like be on Dawson's desktop, see his homework files and surf the web and listen to his CDs. You could read their emails and go through their trash bins. So that was not a ton of controversy there. But I mean, there's the controversy of the fact that this, like many shows of its time, wall to wall, there is not a person of color really anywhere that I noticed.
Think in the 3 episodes we watched, there was a single one.
Yeah, they definitely didn't have any lines if they did. But I didn't
can't
even
even
see
think
extras.
Yeah.
I know that the character that plays Joey's brother-in-law is a black man. I'm pretty sure if I'm remembering that correctly.
Okay. But he was not in the ones we watched
and
at
like
all.
is like the only, like for miles. Like it is, like I understand it's supposed to be like a Massachusetts town, but like there's no way it's that white.
But also like season 6 is in Boston.
Yeah.
There are non-white people in the city of Boston. I promise.
Yeah. So there's that issue, but that's like CW casting. It's something that we saw a lot of in these shows, in these like sort of teen late night soaps, not late night, evening soaps. Was the WB casting was incredibly white.
That is true. Although I do feel like this was like other ones had minor characters and background extras who were not white. And this did not.
This was filmed
even have that.
Largely filmed on location in Wilmington, North Carolina.
Oh, interesting.
This was, they built sound stages there and shot 9 months out of the year there.
I wonder what it was like for like all these like young stars who are now becoming famous and then they're having to spend a lot of their time living in Wilmington.
Yeah. Quite a lot.
I wonder if any of them bought like a second home there so they would have a place to stay that wasn't
the
temporary.
Town kind of became like a Dawson's Creek town, like because it was like a lot of the locations that they used, like there were restaurants that were opened up. People came to it, like became an industry town just for Dawson's Creek to make these 26 episodes a year in this town.
Because TV shows used to be industries. They were long enough seasons spread out through enough of the year that they really were year-round jobs.
Yeah. Yeah. So they created an economy there. I remember one of the, a girl I went to middle school and high school with was a Dawson's Creek obsessive. Like she had like kind of a really hard family life. And so Dawson's Creek was like her safe space her whole life. And she went and visited the set a couple times and had like pictures of her with the cast. I remember everyone was like, oh my God, she has pictures of her with the cast. But yeah, she had a rough childhood. And so Dawson's Creek kind of became like her entire personality.
That's what
the WB is for. That is what, like, if Dawson's Creek did nothing but provide a bit of comfort for this kid with a rough life, like Dawson's Creek did its job.
Yeah. I mean, I would kind of say that's what a lot of art is for, is helping people through a thing. And if it does that, it did its job.
I was talking to my sister about this morning and she was like, you loved Dawson's Creek. And I was like, I loved Dawson's Creek. I did. I had so much yearning, I had a lot of unrequited crushes.
Didn't we all? Yeah. I had a crush on when I was like I was like 11 or 10 or 11, so this was an appropriate crush at the time. But I had a crush at on the 12-year-old star of the French art film City of Lost Children.
Oh, Joseph.
I was in love with her. It was the only movie she ever did. She retired from acting, probably because they had, God, what's his name? Big guy Ron. They had Ron Perlman actually slap her really hard. They were just like, it'll be more realistic if you actually slap this child. And Ron Perlman was like, sure, I'll do that. Mm-hmm. But I do remember, like, I was at my grandma's house on New Year's Eve because my parents were at some party. And I remember when Paris came up, I'm like, I wonder if she's there. Such a crush on her.
Oh, hun.
Dawson's Creek, created by Kevin Williamson, who his other big popular work is, of course, Scream, the Scream franchise, which they're both about and kind of for teens, but they're really different vibes. Because Scream is so meta. Scream is so like knowing and constantly subverting every moment. And Dawson's Creek is not meta and is not subverting anything.
It is Dawson's Creek very much is in the like Beverly Hills 90210, Party of Five, My So-Called Life. Like, it is in that world. It is not really critiquing that world. It does like critique horror a lot. Dawson is an amateur filmmaker, and then even goes on to like make more films, and he makes horror movies. So there's like that.
Okay.
There's that in there. But that is character trait, not necessarily a.
This seemed like a good time to tell you this story because you heard there was a new Scream coming out, and I like the Scream movies. So you're like, oh, there's a new Scream, and I was like, oh, I'll tell you later.
Comes out today on our timeline.
Comes out today. I will maybe watch some of it when it comes on streaming. I'm not going to seek it out. And the reason is, so the last two Scream movies were made by a 2-guy directing team called Radio Silence that do really good movies. And it recentered the franchise on 2 sisters. One of them was played by Jenny Ortega, and the other one, I forget the actress's name. It was going quite well. I thought both of those movies were good. And then, I forget which one, but either Jenny Ortega or the other one spoke out about Palestine, and the studio immediately fired her. And then the other actor immediately quit, and then Radio Silence quit. And so this movie that's coming out is kind of the like last minute we put together a movie from the people who are willing to stay because we fired everyone who supported Palestine.
They needed a paycheck.
And this is the first Scream that has gotten abysmal reviews, unsurprisingly. Scream is a very consistent series. I think the first 6 Screams are all pretty consistently good, but unsurprisingly, this one sounds like it's terrible.
It's a bummer.
Yeah, it's this is what happens when you don't go woke, you go broke.
I've heard that.
Ask Target.
I can't because we don't even go there anymore.
Because none of us go there anymore. Any other thoughts on the worst episode of television we've ever seen?
Do you want to talk us through the writing and directing? We talked about Joshua Jackson directing.
Sorry, I always forget to do this. Okay, so this is, let's say, credited to a guy named Jason M. Palmer. Does not have a Wikipedia page, but he has a personal homepage that had a very detailed biography, so I learned a lot about him. He's a Filipino-American comedian. He's kind of a UCB groundling guy now. Now his job for like the last 10 years is he writes for Fox NFL Sundays. He did very little writing in the world of scripted fiction, unsurprisingly. But he was a writer's assistant at Dawson's Creek on his first job out of college, and this is the only episode they gave him, which explains 2 things. One is it does have a very comedic feel, so it makes sense that it was written by a guy who was kind of coming out of improv comedy. But also, as we were talking about, there's a definite vibe that people knew this episode was a loser, that either they had tried drafts or just the fact that they were having to incorporate Dr. Drew and Adam Carolla was kind of just a loser proposition from the start. So it does feel a little bit like they're like, hey, writer's assistant, do you want a credited episode? You can have this one that's sure to be an absolute disaster. So I do feel like maybe they set this guy up for failure.
He's the fall guy. Well, again, it's speaking to the stewardship of...
But yeah, he went on to write for a few other sitcoms, but now he is a full-time writer at Fox NFL Sunday, and good for him.
Great for him. Love that for him.
It was directed, as we said, by Joshua Jackson. Joshua Jackson was born and raised in Vancouver to a Texan father and an Irish mother. Interesting combination there. His father abandoned the family when Josh was young. He went to high school with Ryan Reynolds. They're about the same age.
Canada really is just one little town, huh?
Well, and there's like the population of Canada mostly lives in like 3 cities. It's a pretty, even more so than the US, which also most of us live in like a few cities. I think Canada really lives in like 3 cities, and then the rest of the population is kind of scattered out. Joshua Jackson got started as a child actor at 13 and then was cast as Pacey at 19. We discussed that he and Katie Holmes dated. After Dawson's Creek, he went on to star in Fringe, and his house burned down in the Palisades fire.
Oh,
These
no.
are the things I learned.
Pacey.
And this is, fortunately, the only thing he has ever directed.
But you know what? You got to give the kid a chance, right?
Yeah.
And he was Jeff
sometimes
Jackson.
that pays off and sometimes it doesn't.
Total smoke show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why he got to star in 2 different TV shows.
Loved him since Mighty Ducks.
Yeah, he was in, I think that was his first job at 13. There was another, Emilio Estevez, I want to say, was also in that.
Yeah, but not as a kid. He was the coach.
Oh, yeah. I think they're still friends.
They should be.
I'm vaguely remembering from the Wikipedia.
They all should still be friends.
Joshua Jackson did not write his own Wikipedia, but we will get later, I think in the middle list, we will get to a guy who wrote his Wikipedia. He wrote his own Wikipedia more than anyone has ever written his own Wikipedia. Usually it's a little bit like, I'm getting a vibe here. This guy should have signed it. Okay. Let us get to an ad break, and then we will get to our intermission. And now it is time for our intermission, which is, how is that theme song?
I don't want to wait. This is a great theme
For
song.
this theme song to be over.
To me, this is not a song on its own right. It is the theme song to Dawson's Creek. It is entirely evocative of that. It is, to me, I cannot separate it as its own thing. It is like, I know it was a song that they picked for this and it was not written for this, but for me, this is the theme song to Dawson's Creek. There is no other application or use for this song.
I mean, it definitely, I don't know if I've heard this song before because I didn't watch Dawson's Creek, but it definitely is the kind of song where like the moment it started, I felt like I could sing along with it. It's such a like instantly catchy song.
And then the way they structured the show with the cold open, it was such a, like, it always was the punchline to it. So it was like they'd set something up, something cold open, and then it would like, they would just come right the fuck in with this song.
This was not the original theme song. The theme song actually went through, there was actually a lot of different shifting around of theme songs. The song they wanted, and it was the theme song on the unaired pilot, and then they wanted, when it got picked up, they wanted it to be the theme song on the show itself, was I've got one hand in my pocket.
Because Canada is just one small town.
Exactly. But Alanis Morissette flat out was like, no, thank you.
Good move, Alanis. That's the song you don't want used as a theme song. That is like, anything off of that album it should just be entirely yours forever and always.
Yeah, I mean, I guess usually it doesn't hurt to have it as a theme song, but I think Alanis Morissette did not need the help.
Didn't need the help. And then also just like, you don't want, like, because Dawson's Creek was so iconic and such a like buzz point at the time, like it was, yeah, it would be giving a piece of your art away and it would become something new that wasn't really yours anymore. And it's something that's uniquely special.
So what they did, they had been running promo. This is such a like late 90s thing. What they had been running promos on in-store screens in Blockbuster for this show. And the song they had been using was I Don't Want to Wait by Paula Cole, a song that had come out the year before. And so they were like, you know what, let's just make that the theme song because people are already associating it with the show. But then, because of rights issues, a lot of the music in the show was changed for syndication and DVD and international rights. And because it was cheaper, starting with season 3, they replaced this theme song in all DVDs and international releases with a song by another Canadian artist called Run Like Mad by Jan Arden, which I wasn't able to find on like music streaming. So let's hear it now.
Yeah.
You recognize that one?
I recognize that one from watching it the last time I watched Dawson's Creek before this, maybe on Hulu. That was the intro song. And I was like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, I guess somewhere along the line in the streaming area, they worked out the rights. I don't know, but I'm also curious how much they worked out the rights, like if some of the other songs are still the replacement songs or if they were able to work out the rights to the original broadcast. But it was like an era of television where things were just a lot more modular. You know, the idea now that like Stranger Things would have to replace a song because of rights issues, it would feel people would get like very upset because that's not what it originally was. But this was an era of television where it's fine, like whatever. For the DVD, it's a different song, and we're just going to do that because it's cheaper. This song is catchy but not good. I give it a 5.
I would a 5 too. I like this theme song though.
Yeah, I mean, it's good as a theme song. I don't think it's very catchy and good for it, but I just don't think it is as a song particularly good.
Let's go to the best.
Let's go to the best, which I wrote.
I fixed it.
I wrote the wrong one. Okay, so here's what happened. The best, the actual best, as it almost always is with every single TV show, is the series finale. If you go to the IMDb, almost every show, the best will be the series finale. This is why we exclude finales, because we'd just be watching a lot of series finales. And I feel like series finales are not going to be very representative of the whole show's deal. The second highest was the third season finale. So I skipped that as well. The issue then is that the next one was from season 6. The middleist is from season 6, and the worst is from season 6, all within like 3 episodes of each other.
We're not doing this.
And season 6 is like this real outlier season. It's the one where like the cast had changed, the location had changed, and it just felt like if we did this, we were not going to watch anything that was like prime Dawson's Creek Dawson. And so we decided to watch the second best IMDb rated, the third season finale, season 3, episode 23, True Love.
Yeah.
Meg, what's happening in this episode?
Okay. So this is the end of season 3. There's a lot of back and forth between Joey, and there's a love triangle between Joey and Dawson and Joey and Pacey. What's happening in this episode is that Dawson's parents, who were divorced in the first season, are now getting back together and getting remarried. Pacey has decided that he's leaving Cape Side for the summer because he needs to get away from Joey and like clear his head. So there's the wedding going on. There's Pacey leaving town for 3 months. And then we have our Jen, Jack, Andy plot, Graham's also, where Jen and her ex-boyfriend, Henry are like in a fight and she's not talking to him. But then she realizes that she actually has feelings for him. So Jen encourages her to follow her heart, and they end up stalking his bus to football camp so she can proclaim how she feels. And then Jack ends up going to find a guy he met in Boston that like he had his first like thing with, to go tell him how he feels and go and like kiss him. So that's what's going on there. Jack goes and kisses him and then realizes that the other guy's boyfriend is there. And he's like, I got back with my boyfriend. I'm sorry. So that's what happens with Jack. However, it works out for Jen and Henry.
And then Jack has a nice discussion with his dad, who's kind of, you get the vibe was like sort of low-key homophobic, but then his dad is like, I'm not just okay with having a gay son. I love that I have a gay son. And they have like a nice moment.
Yes. And this was like, Jack is LGBTV history.
This was the first romantic kiss between men in like a mainstream big US TV show.
Yeah. Having a gay character on a program for adolescents was like incredibly new.
The actor who plays Jack, who is not gay himself, he has talked about he faced extensive death threats and like hate after this episode. He had to like hire security. There was like groups who were putting out death threats at him. It was a very scary time for him as a result of this. Yeah.
I mean, this show came out, this went on the air in October of 98. Matthew Shepard was murdered. So like this is Jack's character, I don't believe, was there in the first season. He wasn't, but maybe he does come in the second season.
And season 4 of Buffy the Vampire Slayer was 1999, and that's the one, or even, it ended in 2000. And in Buffy season 4, they were not allowed to show Tara and Willow kiss. They had to cut away. The network was like, you are not allowed to show these two characters kissing. And so that was, the same year as this?
Yeah.
I think. So that's some more context.
Yeah. So, yeah.
This episode did definitely, it delivered what I wanted, which was I felt like I was getting some prime Dawson's Creek happening. I really got a much better sense of what the show was. It also made me maybe reconsider my stance against season finales. I do think still the correct move is getting the best version of a day-to-day TV episode that you can get, because I think that's what ordinarily makes the show works. But it was really fun to watch, especially a show like this that is so melodramatic. It was fun to watch it really go all out for a season finale.
Goes all out. So we get to the wedding of Dawson's parents, and it's very much like they're doing their vows, and it's like, you're my best friend. So they got
divorced because she cheated on him, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
But then they get back together. Their vows are like this. It's like a parallel to. So the issue that Joey is having is that Dawson is her best friend, but she wants to date Pacey. But Dawson's like, if you date Pacey, we're not friends anymore. And she's like Joey is like raised by her sister. She doesn't have like a big family. Dawson's family kind of is her family and like her steady and her normalcy. And he like, that's like threatening to go away. So she's like, maybe I just don't go with Pacey so I can still have my friend. That's her dilemma there. And of course, the wedding vows between Gail and Mitch are like, you're my best friend. And that's why we're going to be married again, because we're best friends. And Joey's like, I don't.
Also, yeah. Joey.
In an absolute psycho move, Joey is the maid of honor for Dawson's mom.
Dawson's mom was like, hey,
15-year-old best friend of my son.
15-year-old best friend, and presumably at this point in the show, ex of my son. You have to be maid of honor, even though you clearly are very uncomfortable about it.
Yeah, like, Gail, do you not have like friends?
Do you not have adult friends? So many of the people at the wedding are like the teens from the show, and you're really like, do these people not have adult friends? Are they just hanging out with all the teens?
Well, I think they just like, they have their extra pool, and they're mostly high school students. So
listen, I'm living within the world of the show, and in the world of the show, this couple has no adult friends.
But there's some back and forth with Joey and Pacey. Pacey being like, Joey, do you feel anything? And Joey being kind of like making faces, being like, I don't know. And then ultimately she decides at the end of the episode, after Dawson is like, just go with him. You want to be with him. Just go with him. Like, it sucks, but like, just do it. And we get the Dawson crying face meme that comes from this episode.
Which it is even better in context, because we have this whole intense back and forth where he's like, I forget what it was, but she didn't go to Paris for him for some reason. I don't know. And he like regrets that. And so he's like, I'm not going to hold you back again. You've got to go with Pacey because it's what you want to do. And then she leaves. And then we just stay with him for a second. And then he puts on some of the worst crying acting you've ever seen. It really makes you wonder if up to this point, James Van Der Beek had cried, because he just does that weird scrunch face thing from the meme,
which became the Dawson crying meme. So then Joey finds Pacey as he's about to leave and is like, I'm going to go with you. Joey at this point is wearing jeans and a shirt, has nothing with her, and just gets on his boat.
And they even make a joke. She's like, I'm going to need to stop to get some more clothes. And he's like, yeah, we're going to stop in like 4 to 7 days. And I'm like, my dude, she's going to start smelling bad. Like, what's the plan here? You got to stop like this afternoon.
Yeah, well, why don't you just go to your house and get your stuff? Like, I understand it's romantic, but like, maybe grab your toothbrush and some deodorant.
Yeah, he can.
Bathing suit, pair of panties. Like, girl.
There's no schedule here. He can chill for an hour while you go pack.
Also, like, presumably he has provisions for one person.
It's true. He might want to
go
to like, Costco.
Yeah, stop
and get some stuff.
Go get another thing of trail mix or something. I don't know. Anyway, but it's this thing. She chooses him. It's love. It's beautiful. The yearning. We've come to the conclusion of the yearning. The yearn has been yearned, and our characters are kissing.
Yeah, there's kissing happening. There's speaking of psycho moves, there's a point where instead of going to talk to her, Pacey tells her to go.
Has her sister called Dawson's house during the wedding, even though presumably wouldn't Dawson's sister, Joey's sister, be invited to the wedding, being that they're close and Joey is the fucking maid of honor. Yeah. But whatever. She calls and
I think it's technically the rehearsal dinner.
Okay. Whatever.
Because it's the night before.
Oh, yeah. And sends Joey to the store. But that's just a ruse to get Joey to walk by Pacey, who's standing on the street by her blank mural. The mural has like a whole plot thing through this season that I'm not going to get into because it's stupid. But
he has drawn a giant sign that says something like, ask me to stay. And it's psychopath behavior. If a guy did that, the correct thing would be to like start alerting adults in your life that you need protection. Like, that is scary stuff.
I love that he's like, it says ask me to stay. So it's like 3 words. The man is completely covered in paint.
Yeah. Which also, he did it in red paint. So he walks up and he's just covered in what looks like blood.
Yeah. And it's in like the handwriting that they have of the Chick-fil-A billboards where it's like.
Yeah, it's real like behavior that maybe seems romantic on television. But again, if anyone does this in real life, you need to start alerting people in your life that you need help and that you need protection.
I also just want this to be a PSA for anyone who is selecting a maid of honor. You are only allowed to have a person who is under the age of 21 be your maid of honor if they are your blood relative or the blood relative of the person you are marrying.
Yeah. And even then, really think about it, because that's a big responsibility to put on a child.
Yeah.
So like maybe if it's like your little sister and you want your little sister there, fine.
Blood relative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even
or like if this, the person you're marrying has like a child that you want to include.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even then consider, that's what the flower or ring is for the children.
Also just consider that like in no way is that acceptable. Gail, you to ask Joey to be your maid of honor.
I can see why you were divorced from him.
Anyway, so that's that episode. Listen, I think there is a tremendous amount of chemistry among our main 4, Joey, Dawson, Pacey, Jen. However, they are not united in this episode, but we do get a lot of Joey Dawson and Joey Pacey, which is really where the heat is.
Although this is the episode where I'm like, I just do not feel chemistry between Joey and Dawson.
No.
They just did not really have chemistry.
It just really wasn't. Yeah. But yeah, James Van Der Beek, may he rest, right? Where we selected Dawson's Creek at this moment in time because James Van Der Beek just died. So
in the 2 episodes we saw him in, the middleest and the best, I thought he was fine. It didn't feel like he was the anchor of the show because, again, this very much feels
it's
like
a Katie
Joey,
Holmes joint.
Yeah. Katie Holmes is the anchor. And it felt like Pacey is the second. It did feel to me like Dawson was kind of the third most important character.
Yeah. Which, like, that's kind of where it ends up. And then as we get further on, it's like even less so. So, but things evolve, right? You start out with one thing and then you keep going.
And then you realize that there's much hotter chemistry with the other guy who was presumably kind of there to be the obstacle. But then you realize, oops.
Well, I mean, we think about The Sopranos, right? This show was definitely pitched as what if a mob guy had a therapist? And then there's the removal of Dr. Melfi throughout the whole thing because you can start by calling your show Dawson's Creek, but then if it actually works out that the stories you want to tell and the stories that the audiences are responding to do not feature Dawson in the lead, then you gotta eat or be eaten.
And that's where shows that don't do that can really stumble, because I think about the anger that a lot of people felt over where How I Met Your Mother ended up. Because it's clear that from the start, they had made this plan. The whole thing's going to be a red herring and he's going to end up with Robin and she's the mother. Or is she the mother?
She's not the mother. But
he ends up with her because the mother dies.
Yeah.
Right. And that was the plan at the start. But then they didn't pay attention to the fact that through the course of the series, there just wasn't romantic chemistry between him and Robin. And there was a lot of good chemistry between him and Kristen Milioti, who played the mother. And so there was just this real understandable anger when they didn't pay attention to that and they didn't change their plan, and they still ended it with killing off the mother and being like, and now he's with Robin. And it's the mistake with sticking to the plan, even when the chemistry of the actors and the momentum of the story is pushing you somewhere else. Spoilers, by the way, for How I Met Your Mother.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like Dawson's Creek. I think is a really important piece of TV history. I appreciate these young actors working really, really hard to make the show and to make something that I really enjoyed watching as a child. Does it stand the test of time? No, doesn't have to. Shouldn't have to.
I mean, I thought that this episode was not for me, but for what it was for, I thought it was doing good stuff. It was doing the engine of melodrama for young teen girls. And it was, in my opinion, doing a pretty good job at that. There's, again, things I have questions about. Some of the behavior is stuff that I maybe... But this gets to the general thing of a lot of what is modeled as romantic in media is pretty toxic behavior, and it can lead to toxic behavior in real life because people are like, this is what you're supposed to do when you're being romantic, is you're supposed to stalk someone to their house and stand outside their window and play music or whatever. And you see some of that here. But that's not really Dawson's Creek fault. That's a general cultural thing. I did have the question. Do you think, is teen universal? Like, if you showed this to a 12-year-old girl today, would they enjoy it, or was it only relatable to teens at that specific moment in history?
I don't know. So it was such a specific moment in history for the millennial generation, right? We are starting to age into our adolescence, and this is a rough time to grow up. We have Columbine, we have 9/11, we have Matthew Shepard.
I would argue now is pretty rough to grow up
Now
as
it's
well.
pretty rough too, but like it is. Going COVID into, the fall of democracy.
But yeah, I would maybe say they have it rougher.
They have it rougher for sure, but it is, again, there is a mirror there. So we kind of grew up in a pretty bubbly, the 80s were kind of a really bubbly place. I mean, other than the Cold War. But when we get to, we're coming to adolescence at a time where it's like there's a lot of hard truths that we're coming up against. There's a lot of disenchantment that we're coming up against. So having the show created for us that acknowledges that disenchantment and acknowledges the lack of happily ever after, I think it probably would translate to the generation. I don't know if it would translate just culturally, just because they're like, well, why don't they just text each other, right? Or like, why don't they?
I think a 12-year-old girl is old enough to understand that they couldn't text each other at the time.
All right, so should we just do a...
I don't know. That's my question.
I'm going to ask some moms that have 12 that range children and be like, what do you think your kid would think of Dawson's Creek?
Yeah, I'm just curious. I'm curious if teen is universal or if teen reinvents itself for every generation. And so teen media only kind of works for that generation.
Was there even teen media, though, for, like, there wasn't really teen TV for boomers, was there? Like, everyone all just watched the same thing. There was not much on.
There was... Because it wasn't in the TV, but there was definitely movies. Like The Rebel Without a Cause was very much a teen movie.
Yeah, Love Story.
A lot of the horror movies of the time were very much aimed at teens. So I think the teen culture was very much more at the movies than on TV. Because at home, because you only had one TV, everyone watched it together, you couldn't really have stuff aimed only at teens. But in the movies, the teens could go to the movies on their own. Yeah. So you could really aim at teens there.
And then we have our generation where there was more than one TV in the household, kind of like for the first time.
Not in my household.
Of course not, honey. But yeah.
I grew up in a very anti-TV household, and that is why I read a lot.
And why you make a TV podcast.
I have so many notes. Michelle Williams' grandma, Grams, tells this really intense war story about like this.
Speaking of teens going through some shit, right?
She
the greatest generation.
She falls in love with this guy, but he's going off to the war, but they don't kiss. So she follows him to San Diego and kisses him in front of his entire crew. And
this is Korean War, yeah. And then he's killed.
This is Korean War. And then what's Michelle Williams' character's name?
Jennifer.
So Jen is like, I didn't know that Grandpa was at the... And he was like, that wasn't Grandpa. But he died in Korea, and so I settled for your grandpa. She doesn't say that, but that's sort of the implication, because she's like, he was the hottest man I had ever seen.
I also wonder why Jennifer's grandmother talks like this.
She does seem to be British.
She has a bit of a British thing happening. Jennifer.
I'm still not sure why it's named after the creek. What's the deal? Why is it the creek?
It was shot on a creek. It was the name of the location. I don't know. I guess it's like, instead of having like Dawson Street, it's like Dawson's Creek.
Grams, drives like shit. There's like, Grams drives them to chase after Jen's football boyfriend who's on his way to football camp. And Grams is just like running into shit and swerving all over the road.
Grams is driving around. It might be time for someone to pull Grams' license.
And then Jen, in front of her grandmother, has this whole talk with the guy where she's like, I want to have sex with you. You're like, I feel like I was a virgin before I met you, even though I had a bunch of sex, but you were the best. And her grandmother is just like nodding like, that's my girl. I'm so proud of her.
Even though there was a lot of the main conflict in the relationship between Grams and Jen is the fact that Grams is very religious and finds Jen's lifestyle to be abhorrent.
Not in this episode.
Well, no.
Grams is giving a very like you-go girl while she's giving that talk.
Grams does warm up a bit. By season 3, Grams has warmed up a bit. But I love it. Like, she's like, Jen is talking to this boyfriend being like, we didn't have sex because you were a virgin. And everyone's like giving him shit about being a virgin. Like, homeboy is 14. Like, we can let the 14-year-olds be a virgin. It's fine.
Yeah. I mean, that felt realistic of like, even at 14, if someone announced you're a virgin in front of a busload of your football teammates, they're going to make fun of you, even though they're all virgins too. Like that. teens like to make fun of each other, or they did at our age. Maybe the bullying has been fixed now.
Yeah, less so now. And also, like, I don't think the teens are having sex like our generation did.
No, they do it on Roblox.
Yeah.
Or
and at least
Minecraft,
that has, I mean, that's played out in the statistics of teen pregnancy.
which is great.
I just was reading about that this morning.
Well, there's also like, because there's some of the worst people in the world are freaking out about the birth rate dropping. But as people point out, a lot of the reason the birth rate dropping is because teen pregnancy is dropping. It turns out teen pregnancy was kind of, what's the word, load bearing for our birth rate. A lot of the birth rate was driven by teen pregnancy. And so when that dropped, the entire birth rate dropped.
Yeah.
So one would say maybe that's a good thing. Who knows?
One would say maybe that we can use immigration to solve our population crisis.
A lot of the birth rate thing is not a problem if you're not weird about immigrants. My final thing is Jen has a very meta line during that final speech where she's like, if we were on a teen drama, it would be like this, but we're not on a teen drama.
So you see, Joseph, it is a little bit meta.
Yeah, there is that one little meta line where I'm like, someone is having too much fun.
And we should let them.
So coming back, we got to talk about who wrote this. There are 4 credited writers, 2 credited teleplay writers and 2 credited story buys. So I'm going to go through them really fast.
They sort of passed the laptop around on this one.
Yeah, it's the big season finale. I wonder if just like a lot of people were working on different plot lines and then they kind of had to figure out how to fit them together. So the teleplay is credited to Tom Capinos and Gina Fattore. Tom got his
Italian excellence.
Exactly. Although Capinos sounds Greek to me, but maybe I'm wrong about that. Tom got his start on Dawson's Creek, and he went on to create Californication, which is sort of, one might say, Dawson's Creek for adults in some ways. Gina got started on King of the Hill as an assistant to Greg Daniels, and then became a writer on King of the Hill, and then went on to write for a bunch of stuff, including she was hired by Tom for Californication. The story is credited to Greg Berlanti and Jeffrey Stepikoff. Greg is gay and married to a professional soccer player. Good for him. Good catch there. His first work was a movie he wrote and directed about gay life in Los Angeles. He went on to write a lot of stuff, mostly a lot of comic book adaptations is his specialty. He created the Netflix show You, which I think is quite popular. It's the one about a stalker. I don't know if you've heard about it, but I definitely see people like discussing You. Jeffrey, meanwhile, got to start on a 1981 show called Simon and Simon about 2 brothers with opposite personalities investigating crimes.
Great idea.
It has 156 episodes.
Oh, baby.
He wrote a bunch of TV, including a lot of Dawson's Creek, and then he became a professor of screenwriting in Georgia. He retired to do that. He also wrote a book about his time on Dawson's Creek called $1 Billion Kiss, the kiss that saved Dawson's Creek. I don't know which one he's referring to. Presumably it's between Katie Holmes and someone.
Maybe it was the one from this episode.
I feel like at that point Dawson's Creek had been saved, right? Like, the kiss that saved Dawson's Creek seems to be implying that Dawson's Creek wasn't doing well, and then there was like a kiss that got it on track.
Dawson's Creek did okay. Dawson's Creek came out hot. The ratings were good. It was in that Tuesday night slot after Buffy or before Buffy, with adjacent to Buffy. And as far as anything on the WB is going to do, like, it had 5, 6, 7 million viewers, which is very serviceable for a WB program.
Well, if anyone is curious which kiss, the book is $1 Billion Kiss by Jeffrey Stepikoff. You can find out which kiss it was.
I'm going to have to go find out what kiss it was.
It was directed by James Whitmore Jr., who is the son of the actor James Whitmore, who is an Oscar-nominated actor. James Whitmore Jr. got his start as an actor as well on Doctor's Hospital, a 1975 medical show, and then he spent about a decade doing small parts acting on television, and then in the mid-'80s, pivoted to directing. His first job was on Riptide, which was a 1984 show with 56 episodes. And I'm just going to read you the IMDb summary because I don't think I can do it justice. The cases of a private investigation agency run by 2 Vietnam War veterans and their computer geek friend from high school, armed with toughness and their own helicopter. That sounds dope as hell. Good for you, Riptide. He's been directing ever since. Just last year, at the age of 77, he was directing some NCIS. So kind of lifelong director. Okay. Having come back to Dawson's Creek, now no longer a 12-year-old girl, how'd you feel about it?
It was really hard to watch that episode. That was very bad. The Dr. Drew one. That was a painful watch. It was the worst episode I've watched for this show, for this podcast, for sure. The other 2 episodes, I was like, it's great to be back. I mean, the college year stuff, this might just be personal to me. We talked about it at the beginning of this episode. Like, you sort of lose me when you change locations. Like, I'm not going to don't go to a second location with a hippie. Like, I don't want to go to a second location with my teen friends. I don't want a college years. I want to stay in high school forever. I want to stay 18 forever so we can stay like this forever.
Which, like, you're already casting, like, 25-year-olds. You can just leave them in high school. It's fine. They can just be 40 and still in high school.
The issue with the reason that we have this with these high school shows is because there's these benchmark things in high school that are, like, super important. We've got homecoming, we've got prom, and
Graduation.
And we've got graduation. So we're just, like, that. Those are our pivot points. You can't just stay the entire, like, you can't just do an entire season that is just the month of September in a school year. Although you should, to really give yourself some time to stay in high school forever.
I mean, I think Buffy stuck themselves to a little more like every season was a school year, I want to say. I wanted to say it started with Buffy as a sophomore and then she graduates in the third season.
Yeah, same with Dawson's Creek.
Yeah.
But still.
Which is also just like a really good, it means you run through high school pretty quickly, but it is a good structure. It's like a very easy structure to build around.
Yeah, people just get so excited and they have to write the prom episode and I'm like, save it. Just give them a spring fling. Give them a homecoming dance. Give them a winter social.
Just do the pit where every day is 12 hours in a high school.
Give me the pit where every day is 12 hours of high school. And it's called Pit High School.
The pit, the high school year. It's Dr. Robbie as a high schooler.
Mm-hmm. All right, cool. So yeah, I love Dawson's Creek and I honor its place in history. R.I.P. to James Van Der Beek. I'm sorry you had such a hard time in the end of your life. I know that you will be fondly remembered by your many fans who you created a lot of important work for.
I mean, someone pointed out both Dawson and the Black Panther died of colon cancer that was diagnosed that they got before they were 45, even though health insurance will not pay for colonoscopies before you're 45. So they are both in some ways being killed by a health insurance systems that won't check for colon cancer before an arbitrary age. Just something to think about.
And as for colorectal cancer awareness, I always like to shout it out. If you're having any sort of symptoms, if anything feels off, go to the doctor. If you have access to a doctor, go to the doctor. If you are having issues, then you can get a colonoscopy. If you are having issues, or if you have a family history, you're eligible for a colonoscopy covered by your insurance earlier. So if you have a family history or if you're having any sort of symptoms, go get it checked out, because if you can catch it early enough, it's like a much different story.
Yeah, fun fact. I was developing IBS, but I didn't know it at the time. So they did do, it wasn't a full colonoscopy.
No,
it was like a mini colonoscopy.
You had a little Jewish tum situation.
But they did find something that they weren't sure what it was, but they just removed it. And then when they remove something, they tattoo so that if there's like in future colonoscopies, they can know something was removed there. So I have a secret little tattoo in my colon that is only for me.
Not a secret anymore.
Not a secret. Yeah. Don't ask to see that one. I will be happy to show you some of my other tattoos.
It's the Night Vale eye. They just tattooed the Night Vale eye inside your colon.
It's just the doctor's name was here. For me, yeah, the bad episode was bad. This episode was very much what I was expecting from Dawson's. And as I said, to jump ahead, I don't want to watch the rest. I don't want to watch the rest of the show. It's not for me, but I definitely felt like this was doing what it was supposed to do. It was like a competently built engine pumping out teen melodrama, and it felt like it was doing a good job at that.
I don't know that I would sit down to watch this again. However, if I had like a large task, I think like if I had to count all the t-shirts in stock for merch, I would throw Dawson's Creek on. If I had to, like, if I was packing to move or something, throw on old Dawson's Creek, doing some sort of little task in a single room, throw on the Creek.
Throw on that Creek. It's available on both Hulu and Netflix for your watching pleasure. Any other thoughts on the most Dawson of Creeks?
Thank you for your time.
The next show we're going to do, we kind of went back and forth on this. There's a number of ones that we feel like we should do coming up, but continuing with sticking to current events because there's that reboot happening. I think we're going to do Scrubs, a show that both of us really liked when it was on. I was a huge Scrubs fan.
I was a huge Scrubs fan. I watched it with my mom every time it was on. When I met Zach Braff at an event, I fangirled him hard with my mom. My mom started the fangirling, and then I jumped right on in.
I had the first 2 or 3 seasons on DVD and definitely have watched those seasons a bunch of times. It was definitely for a while my when I'm feeling down, just throw on some Scrubs.
The musical episode of Scrubs is one of my favorite pieces of art ever made.
It is not the best episode. The best episode I did correctly guess before looking.
Well, anyway, we'll get there when we get there. But until then, you do have to wait
for this episode to be over. Check out our Patreon-only show, The Middleist, where we will be discussing the exact Middleist-rated episode to see what the show looks like when everything is exactly average. That episode is Season 6, Episode 14, Clean and Sober. It is only, I want to say, a few episodes before the worst episode. It is a significantly better episode than the worst episode, though. Despite being in Season 6. Spoiler, I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah. Serviceable.
I don't want to wait for our lives to be over.